go ahead and get started?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do my introduction again. My name is Teddy. I live at Small Acre Farm in northern Colorado. Our fiber brand is Timber and Twine, so you'll see me interact in the group in both ways. So we're going to do a little workshop on our little loom. So this is our little loom. It's an eye loom. Every summer we do a fiber camp here, and we work raw fleece all the way through the processes to a little weaving. And I needed a loom that could be warped and woven in about a day or so. And there were lots of little looms out there, but they weren't just exactly what I was looking for. And so my partner, who is a wonderful fine woodworker, and I worked together to create this loom. So she builds the looms for me, and I weave on it. The loom is a 6 dent, so that means that there are 6 slots for every inch, and it can be warped every slot, or you could warp it every other slot. Today we're going to warp it every slot, so let's get started. Ready? All right, we're going to turn around here. We're working on angles and videos and some other things, so if you can't see, you just need to let us know. My daughter's working the camera and the comments, and she will help us out. So I am warping today. It's good to warp. Warp is the vertical yarn or string, and it holds the whole thing together. So cotton is an ideal fiber for warping because there isn't any stretch in it, and you don't want those vertical pieces to have stretch. So I'm going to start here. I'm not necessarily warping the middle. It doesn't really matter, and I'm hoping by keeping it over on the edge you can see it better. So I'm going to start. Here's my end. I'm going to put it in the slot, and I'm going to come around once and anchor that piece in. And I came over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots. So I'm going to come down to the corresponding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I like to have a double selvage because it's easy for tapestry weaving to bow in the middle and look like an hourglass. So I'm going to show that one more time. So I came to the corresponding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I came to the corresponding. I came over 2, back 1, and then back into that same hole so that I have that double selvage on the edge. And for my little project, I'm looking for 10 warps. So 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and I'm keeping it pretty taut. I want it to be pretty tight on that one. I'm guessing this is 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to come over 2. Am I holding it weird?
Okay.
Okay. Back 1. And back into that slot. I'm going to come, so I have a double selvage here. And then I'm going to wrap it around, tuck it behind, and pull it nice and tight. All right, so we're warped and ready to go. guys see that? We good? Okay. I'm going to start. So I'm using, so this is the color palette from the July Blueberry colorway, and so I'm going to use our weaving kit that was from that colorway today. I'm going to start with an Australian Merino, and I'm going to start in the middle of my, oops, I forgot something. I like to work with just a little piece of cardboard here because I want this much room of my warp to finish my project at the end. So I cut, this is actually from a greeting card. You could use a, cardboard's kind of thick, but a paperboard from a cereal box or something like that, and that just gives me a little extra lip so that I don't beat it down behind. All right, so I'm going to start in the middle, over, under, over, under. So the over under stitch is called plain weave or tabby weave, and I'm going to weave about an inch or an inch and a half of a tail on the back. And then I'm just going to beat it down gently. And I should have said that if you're looking at the loom kits, that the loom kits come with the loom, the shuttle, the beater, and a needle. When I'm working tiny little projects, I like to use tapestry needles. They're just a little bit shorter. This one seems like an overkill for that little piece. Okay, then I'm coming around and I'm going to go over, under, all the way across. And then I'm going to grab my warp, which is the vertical, and my weft, which is the horizontal. And I'm just going to pinch them together with my left hand. Bring this up on a diagonal, and this is called bubbling. So I have this little bubble here, and then I'm going to beat it down with my comb. And what that does is it just gives you enough play in the yarn that it doesn't pull this in and give you that hourglass. And I'm going to come back over, under. I'm going to pinch and do my diagonal. Bring the bubble down. And then beat. I'm going to do just a couple more rows. We're really working a sampler here today. Do just one more. Bubble. All right, and then I'm going to finish mid-row. So I'm going to start this row and finish to the back. I'm still going to bubble it up a little bit and beat it down. And what looks like it might be a little bit loose on the end, really in a finished weaving will not. And I'm just going to hang that out the back. Actually, I might cut that off because really I only need about an inch or so. All right. So the next yarn that I'm going to use is a cashmere silk blend, and this was dyed with red onion skins. So where I came over this warp string here, and I would be coming under I'm just going to start my row back there as if I was continuing the row. And this is a pretty thick yarn, so I'm going to go, whoops, got in the middle of my selvage there. Okay. I'm having a heck of a time. All right. So this one, I think I'm going to do tabby weave with 2 warps. So I'm going to come under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2. Pinch and bubble. And then back the same, over 2, under 2. There are lots of different weaving stitches and techniques. When I started weaving, I really felt like I had found a good place for my hand spun. And so, although I use lots of different stitches, I really think that it's a great place to showcase hand spun yarn and kind of allow it to tell the story. So I love texture and color to kind of be the main part of my weaving, rather than lots of complicated stitches. I think we'll stop there with that one. So we're going to go over, under, over, and finish in the middle. And then cut that off with a little bit of a tail for the back. Okay. Then the next yarn we're going to use is a silk, kind of a slubby silk yarn dyed with cochineal and then 3-plied. And we're going to do a stitch. Now that I've said I don't use fancy stitches, I'm actually going to come around here. We're going to do a fancy stitch. So we're going to start, let me think about this. So I'm going to finish just like I came around. What did I do here? Okay, so I'm going to finish this row, under, over, weave a tail, and then I'm going to come around. I've got to think of it. Oh, there we go. So I'm back to every other stitch. So I'm coming up where this stitch would have finished, under, over, under. Then I'm going to bring my yarn up and make a loop and come back to the left and pull it through. I'm going to do that all the way across. This is a great stitch for defining shapes or making transitions from one color to the next. So if I were looking to do a triangle, the nice thing about this stitch is that I could go ahead, because it's wrapped, I could go ahead and make that definition of where I wanted that triangle or diagonal to be. But I could go ahead and continue to weave and come back to that. Or maybe I would do another one and I would come up like that, and then I might fill in the weaving. And then I'm just going to come around and go under, over, so that I have a tail in the back. So the last stitch we're going to do is vertical stripes. And we're going to use 2 colors of yarn. This, we're back to the Peruvian cotton. So we're going to start in the middle. And then I'm going to weave a row of plain weave every stitch, over, under, over, under. Then I'm going to come from the other direction and make my next row with the next color. Over, under, and I'm going to leave that tail hanging out because I'm going to catch it with the next row. So now I'm coming back with the lighter color, and I'm going to look and see. So this last stitch here would have been an over, so this one needs to be an under. I'm going to catch the dark yarn and come under, over, under. Hang on to my tail. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm catching this tail that's hanging out with the next thread. So this was over. So we're coming under, over. Do my bubble. And beat it down. I'm going to come back with the lighter, and this last stitch here was under, so we're coming over, under. This one was under. Oh, yeah, so we gotta catch it. And we're coming back over under. And I don't know if you can start to see the stripes forming. All right, so I'm going to put this aside. So this is a weaving that I did. So this will give you an idea of what those vertical stripes look like. And then I want to show you how to finish a weaving. I left my first weaving class before we were done with the weaving, and I was frustrated because I didn't know how to finish a weaving, and so I was stuck. So there are lots of different ways to finish. When you're done, you're going to weave up to here or less, but up to the bottom part of the loom, and then you're going to unwrap your warp and just flip them off. So this is what I ended up with after I took this off of the loom. For the bottom on this piece, because I had fringe and I wasn't going to see it, I tied 2 pieces of the warp. Let's get rid of this. Together. So there are a couple of things that I can do. If I wanted to, let's say I'm going to mount this and I don't want to see the warp at the top, I would take 2 warp pieces and tie them together with the knot at the back of the weaving. And then I would take a tapestry needle, this one, and I would thread it through a couple of stitches, thread my needle, and tuck it in. Because this is not a scarf and it's not going to get lots of wear, it's less likely that those little tucked pieces are going to come out. So I would do that. I would tie each one and I would tuck them under for a nice flat finish. But maybe I want to mount this on dowel or a piece of wood and display it as a wall hanging. So in that case, for lack of a dowel, we're going to use a knitting needle. So I would then, and you could tie it loosely so it would hang loosely. Whoops. I'm going to tie it, and again I'm probably going to hide those knots in the back. So I'm taking every other loop. I'm going to tie it onto my little mounting knitting needle here. And then think on how I was going to display it, I might tuck those in again with a little needle. All right, so then I would work my way across. And there will be my piece. So little looms are great for lots of different kinds of things. They're great for little projects like this. They're great for bookmarks and bracelets. I will often do a sampler if I'm going to do a scarf on my rigid heddle. I want to see what the colors and the textures are going to look like together. I'll work it up with a little bit of a sample. Also fits in my backpack, so if I'm hiking, it's great for a mobile project. So there you have it. Small Acre Farm Little Eye Loom and our project. So thank you guys for being here. This was really fun, and I'll head over to the computer and answer some questions if you have them. Otherwise, have a great evening.